Think it's good to go. Hello, 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 beautiful souls. Welcome back to Get Your Shit Together with Yana Kasperzak podcast. And today you're tuning into yet another incredible episode of our special series, Your Journey of Becoming, where real women share their messy, their unfiltered middle part of who they were meant to be and not just the highlight reel. They're talking about the real things because your dream life does not start when everything is perfect. It actually starts when you have had enough playing small and you decide once and for all to go all in on it, where you choose to do everything it takes to go from surviving to finally thriving. So grab your coffee and let's dive in because today I'm joined by Cindy Drummond, who is the author of Reflection from the Dating Pool, a bold, heartfelt account of going on 50 dates in 52 weeks after learning that the person she had been living with for almost a decade was living a lie. Cindy didn't go looking for the one, but wanted to find herself with humor, vulnerability, and hard won insight. Cindy turned her real life dating into a powerful reflection on courage, boundaries, resilience, and self worth. Her story inspires others to take brave leaps and rewrite those old narratives and trust that growth often begins the moment we step outside our comfort zone. And she's here to share her journey of becoming with you all and of course with me. So I like to begin with just a reminder that since this is Get Your Shit Together podcast, that we don't do no surface level, shit. We're here to talk about all of the raw, the authentic, and sometimes uncomfortable truths that actually help the audience, help me to see you on that journey that you were on and share that with you. So I like to begin with asking, when did you realize that the life that you were living wasn't actually yours and you begun to get your shit together?
That is such a good question because I should preface that, you know what, I had a really nice childhood. I married a good guy, had two beautiful children, and then kind of just, I don't know, felt like there was more. And
Mm.
so I broke up my marriage and I fell head over heels in love with somebody. And as you said, with them for almost a decade. And when you know that something's not right, but
Yeah,
you're dismissing it because you're like, but he loves me and he's
yeah.
saying all the right things, and you're like, yeah, but something's not adding up, and so you ignore it longer. And truthfully, I was slapped in the face with it. One morning, 6 or 7, I can't remember, police officers showed up at our front door and took him away in handcuffs. And so the truth was right in my face, and I didn't see it. I mean, I thought I was dismissing some of the lies and the truth that didn't seem to add up, but it wasn't until he was arrested that I was like, holy smokes, what have I been doing for the last 7 years?
So what happened there, if you don't mind us? I know everybody's gonna want to know what happened, w- your experience, and why did he get arrested?
Yeah, so I will go into it a little bit. He was
Hmm.
arrested for voyeurism. So they
What is that?
found voyeurism is they found pornography on his computers and his phone. And so somebody that he had been working with saw something and reported it. And so it led to a police investigation and they arrested him.
Wow. How was that
Mhm.
for you?
Gut wrenching.
Yeah,
Uh, it was, I feel like you go through all of the 7 stages because at first it was like,
yeah.
absolutely not. Like I would have known this was going on in my own house. And then it was absolute pure anger and probably even hatred because I
Hmm.
had two young daughters And then also, like, what does this, like, what are people going to think about me?
Yeah.
Like, I obviously wouldn't condone this type of behavior. And then I was scared because we owned a house together and I needed to flee that house. And I moved into my parents' basement in my 40s.
Yeah. That
Mm-hmm.
sounds like it was an actual, like the scariest roller coaster ride that anyone can go on. And I've watched quite a few documentaries where I'm gonna compare the documentaries I watch because I know a lot of women probably do watch them as well, like murder mystery type of things, right? I know men some make jokes where how can you watch these things and go right to sleep and sleep peacefully, right? Um, because we get to learn. So what I got to learn from all of those is that the partner never, it's either they're involved, which is very rare, but primarily they have no idea. And when I started listening and paying attention to what they're saying, what they were doing is the same thing as you. It's really, and we all do this, especially us good girls. We make excuses and reasons and normalize and justify things, and it's not that we don't pretend not to see it, it's that we're trying to make sense of it because this is the version of a person that we know. It's not possible for this person to be anywhere else that belongs essentially on a TV screen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot for anyone to go through where you're now your whole perception of reality shatters in so many different ways where and also perception expectation of the fantasy that we create. The fantasy that we create is the image and ideas and the daydreaming of what our life is going to be like with this person that we know. All of that future is now poof gone, and now you
Mm-hmm.
find yourself in the parents' basement. So
Mm-hmm.
tell me, how was that for you when you finally like open your eyes in that basement and realize this is where you are now?
Humbling. I
Hmm.
mean, I'm just so grateful that I have family, that my parents were just like, no questions asked, just there's a spot for you for as long as you need it. Um, because I don't know. I don't know what would have happened if I didn't have a safe place to land. Um, but then there was also this piece. So you're grateful that you have this support, but
Hmm.
you're embarrassed
Of course.
and you and I was so mad at myself for, like, how did I let myself get into this situation?
Hmm.
And how come again, like I said, that I had feelings that I ignored, but how did I not see this? And so I was really quite angry with myself for a while.
Yeah. Those are very normal and expected feelings and emotions to feel that way because all of us, as before we're talking, we're all are given a program. Like we're
Hmm.
all programmed to live a certain life. And many of us, we realize that we're going up these steps, achieving this and this and this and that, and we'll be happy when, and then one day just realize, wake up and realize that not just feeling empty, even though you did all the things that you were taught and conditioned, essentially programmed to do and achieve and accomplish. Meanwhile, we are designed because there's the program and there's the actual design of us. And we're designed to be successful. We're designed to explore and love and thrive. And yet, the program we receive is the program of failure and fear. And that's the
Hmm.
conditioning that we even before we were talking how amazing it was for us to be living in this decade out of all the decades, but this decade, this is the program we received and now we're living out. And of course, by the standard definitions, one would feel fail like a failure when the entire life crumbles. And yet we also can feel like we failed, even if the life didn't crumble at all, that we got all the things that we got and still feel like a failure. So I feel like this is what you did with those 50 dates with yourself. So take us on that journey and what that, like, how did that start? The middle of it, and then, of course, the end.
Okay, so just give a bit of a timeline
Mhm.
because so this would have happened in the summer. This would have happened in July that
Okay.
that I moved out, and it wasn't until December that and it wasn't like I was like, oh, I think I'm ready to start dating again,
Mhm.
but I like setting myself goals. And
Mhm.
I also knew that I wasn't ready to start dating again. However, I kind of gave myself this lofty goal of, well, maybe I'm going to experiment. So it was the end of December, and I was like, it was like a good New Year's resolution, I guess, if people
Yeah,
like
they're
resolutions.
the best
And
when we stick
so
to them.
I just put it out there. I was at a party with some friends, and we were going around the table, and I said, I'm going to go on 50 dates next year. And people were like, you're not. That's crazy. And I'm like, why not? Let's just see what happens.
Hmm. So what happened?
Well, the first date that I went on was in the first week of January, and I'm being very honest here. I was crying driving to this date. I was so scared to
Yeah.
go on this date. And when I look back, it seems kind of funny now. At the time, I was absolutely petrified of
Mhm.
walking in and meeting somebody else. And so, come in, my eyes are a little red. And I had this first coffee date. And afterwards, like, that's when I realized that it's okay. Like, it's okay to meet somebody. It doesn't mean that I'm going to start getting into a relationship with them. But
Mhm.
I came back from that. And I don't know why I decided to journal how I was feeling, but I journaled about it. And I kind of wrote, okay, so I went, and yes, I was scared, but I did it. And I was proud of myself for going on that date. Um, and then that gave me the courage to go on the next date. And that gave me the courage
Mm.
to go on the next date. And at some point, and I don't know the exact numbers, but let's say I'm 4 months in, and I just had this light bulb moment where I was like, it's really not about the guys. It's
Hmm.
really not about the men that I'm meeting.
Yeah.
It is about who I am, how I'm showing up, what impression am I giving them. And I have to, and I'll be honest, because there was a couple of times where I walked in, and within a few minutes, I was like, absolutely not. And so at first, you're kind of being, and I was never rude. I was always kind. But there was a few times where after about 10 minutes, I'm like, look, I'm sorry. Like, I don't want to waste your time, but there's no point us sitting here for an hour when we're never going to chat again. And
Yeah.
so that was also kind of mm, empowering because
Yeah.
I was giving myself permission and setting boundaries to walk away.
Yeah. That takes a lot because some good girls, they simply will not leave. They'll stick around and in the end feel worse about themselves because they didn't listen to that intuition that told them, we're done, let's go. It's not gonna go anywhere. It's just going to be draining and potentially more ways than one. And so it's awesome that you chose yourself in that moment and you chose to do the harder thing, but by choosing doing the harder thing, you made things much easier for yourself because it helped you to understand and grow, because we don't grow when everything is comfortable, right? Just like I even started, we grow when everything is chaotic, it's all over the place, when we are on that roller coaster ride. And maybe
Mhm.
I don't like roller coaster rides anymore. I know some of them are great and others are literally they're built to petrify people. And I've done enough of them to even close my eyes and I can feel I'm already on the roller coaster ride, right? It's imagination. But sometimes it's like when we're going down that roller coaster ride, that's when our life, quote unquote, flashes in front of our eyes and we receive and get the answers that we've been searching for. So, what would you say were those answers that you might have been searching for that came through for you?
And you're right. I think it's in the low time because after I've been dating for about 8 months and it was summer and my kids are off with their dad and I've got friends that are on vacation and you're like, okay, like I'm by myself.
Yeah.
And there was this like, okay, like, am I alone or am I lonely? And there's a
Mm.
big difference.
Oh, yes.
And being alone is great. Being lonely is not great,
Yeah.
right? So I was having a few of these epiphanies along the way. Um, and you, of course you want to give up. And there
Yeah.
will be 1,000 women that will say they went on a couple dates and they just realized that there's nobody out there and they're all the same. And it's very disheartening
Yeah.
because we're kind of a little bit of a broken society and we won't go down that path. But then you would start a conversation with somebody new and you would get hope. And hope is a beautiful thing
Oh, yeah.
because hope is what keeps you going,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. That's true. And I've heard this quite a few times. Women will go on a few dates and then all of a sudden there's no one out there. But they're because they're also not aware. The reason why we start going on dates is because you need to heal yourself. And initially, the people that are attracted are going to be the wrong ones because we are vibrating on a wrong frequency. So we need to keep going, keep chipping away, keep doing it. 50 dates, perhaps. For some, maybe it's 100, depending how much trauma is there to get to enough of these glimpses of hope throughout all of these men and recognize the right one
Mhm.
when the time comes. And there's no number that we can put on a could be date number one, could be date number 1,000. But it is a journey. So you also mentioned in the beginning that the first one you were going to, you were crying. I want
Mhm.
to know what was going through your mind. Like, what were you thinking that was bringing out tears for you?
I think it was probably a lot of things. One is when you're forced to break up with somebody because they're arrested, you
Mm,
automatically have to go from being in love with somebody one morning and then hating him the next morning. And
yeah.
there's not a lot of time to grieve that. And if you do grieve it, you're judged for grieving that because you don't get to grieve a bad person.
We're all bad and we're all good.
But you know, and so
Yeah,
absolutely. And
yeah,
and I know that now, but at the time it was just like
yeah.
it was the time it was just like so what do you do with that pain? Like you stuff it down or you eat or you smoke or you do all the things like so I think part of that was also just releasing like letting go of okay like that is in the past so I was grieving what I thought was a relationship with somebody that I was in love with and then I was also just like what does this look like and because
Mm.
I'm a mom I was also like, what are my kids going to think about me going on a date? Because now they're teenagers, and so and and let's be honest, there's also what if he doesn't like me,
Yeah, of
right?
course.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
So
yeah, and as you said, it's like you're grieving the past. And it's important to grieve the past, but part of the past as we're grieving it, also grieving the future of what was supposed to be, which should have been, that is now gone. It's like you have a house and you leave the house, you come back and it's completely empty.
Mhm.
What do you do with that empty house? And that's what you started to figure out, what you yourself needed to do for you, that help you to find yourself on that path and on that journey. And all throughout our life, and especially when we're going through these challenging, difficult times, this is where, like, we don't, like, as I said, that we don't grow in the comfort zones, we grow outside of our comfort zones. We are growing when we feel pain, discomfort in the body. That's us either growing or uh what's the word, resisting growth. And when we resist growth, we actually feel a lot more pain in our body, so, and that can turn into physical pain. And when we choose to grow and lean into it, it seems to just vanish and turns into strength and power, and we feel hope. We feel powerful. We feel happy. We feel joy. But that process is what I refer to as death and rebirth.
Mhm.
And I would love to know what version of you had to die so that this version of you, this woman that is sitting here today, could finally live.
Wow, that's a good question. What version of me had to die? Um, well, I honestly think that the person that was a little bit naive, the
Mm,
person that thought that bad thing, and again, I'm using these words, but I mean them loosely, that bad things don't just happen to bad people. Because I
mm,
always considered myself a good girl, as you said
yeah,
earlier. Like I did all the right things. I had nice parents. I had a nice house. How does this happen to me? So there's a bit of naivety in the sense that it's not bad or good, and it can happen to anybody.
yeah.
So that piece of me being a little bit naive. And I think the other piece is always think that I'm an empathetic person, but I did sort of believe that I gained a new sense of empathy. I saw everybody in a little bit of a different light
Mm-hmm.
moving forward. So the person that was like, well, actions have consequences, I think I was a little judgmental. And so that piece of me had to die so that I could have a fresh perspective on everybody. And
Mm-hmm.
and even the men that I met that I didn't think were right for me, I still tried to see them as humans and not judge them. Right? They every one of them gave me a gift and showed me who I was and what I wanted. And so I just tried to look at people a little bit differently.
Mm-hmm. And how would you say that has contributed to your life now?
Well, I still try to be non-judgmental, but we have been through challenging times in the last several years. And so sometimes you can't always not make judgment,
Mm-hmm.
but I try to just remember that those people are mirrors and
Yeah,
reflect things that we don't like in ourselves. And I don't have it all figured out. I do not have it all figured out. And that's
yeah.
okay.
I honestly love that. I love the honesty, because those who do say, I gotta figure it out, I have my shit together. No, you do not. Nobody does. Not even Tony Robbins. He's still figuring things out. Come on. Right? Think of the person that you idolize the most. They're still figuring things out. They're just gotten better at figuring things out and working through things. When it comes to judging, that's part of our design. And of course, it's also part of our program. But we can relearn how we ourselves want to judge. Judgment is a crucial part of life. Before you go outside, you got to judge the weather. Do I bring the umbrella? Do I not? Do I put shorts on? Do I put long pants on? How do I dress? Judging things is not necessarily always the biggest and the baddest way that we can, but when we judge others, as you said, it's a mirror. We're really judging ourselves. I like
Mhm.
to use this phrase, if you spot it, you got it. And I
Mhm.
say to my kids all the time, if you spot it, you got it. And I've heard that growing up, but of course it doesn't make sense to a young mind. We don't really have rational thinking. I think it's after about 27 years old, that's when we start to have more rational thinking. Prior to that, it's primal, right? It's just like we're running on the program, we're recognizing that there's a program, and we're just going and going and going, and then we awaken and go through these spiritual awakenings, as I like to call them, which is really death and rebirth. And we learn so much on each and every one of them. But when we spot something in somebody else, it becomes it becomes an opportunity for us to do something with it or not. And when we pause and think about it, because initially we all have to pause and think about, I'm making this choice. What's the future going to look like if I make this choice or
Mhm.
don't? And when we start thinking and living that way, then all of a sudden becomes a little bit easier. And then before we know it, we don't even have to pause and think. We just already think and we already decide. Everything becomes easier. And I like how you also said that the whole like the good and bad, it's it's just a concept, but it really is more of an opportunity, as you were saying. It's an opportunity to grow,
Mhm.
to see something in someone, good or bad, and recognize, hey, do I have that or did I have that? Do I
Mhm.
want to become that? Because when we recognize it, doesn't always mean that this is who we are, but it gives us a glimpse of who we could be if we choose to do something that in some ways or many ways goes against who we are and who we want to be.
Mhm.
And through this process of roller coastering through life, we recognize that there's a lot of things that we're living a lie in one way or another. So for you, what was the biggest lie that you were living that felt normal to you until it broke you?
I think the biggest lie is that I again, like I didn't know what was going on, but I
Mm,
absolutely pretended that everything was fine. And I knew it wasn't. I just didn't know. I just didn't know it was that. Like you're as again, we're women, so I'm just like, am I crazy? Is there an affair happening? Is like, and so I was trying to make sense of something, but I knew I said that I found out I was living a lie, but I also knew while I was in it that I was living the lie because it didn't make sense to me. Something wasn't adding up. I just
mhm.
didn't know what. And I felt crazy.
Yeah. So what happened when you found out, like, the actual lie?
I remember, so I told you that I moved out of the house,
Mhm.
but we still owned this house. And so I remember a few days later having to go back to the house to get stuff, clothing, and the process of actually moving and all that took a long time. But I remember going upstairs to my bedroom, and the bed was still unmade from the morning of the arrest. And I started I'm going to get emotional. Started walking over to it, and I was like, I'm just going to lie down for a bit. And
Mhm.
then I stopped myself or a higher power or something, and it was like absolutely not, because if you get into that bed, you're not going to be able to get out.
Mm. That's that's powerful. Where you hear that higher voice tell you that future.
Mm-hmm.
And that sounds like there was a mini pause that even caused you to pause longer. It's like, no way am I doing that. And
Yeah.
then you also were showing up in that same way with those men that you just like, we're vibing. This is not going anywhere. I'm not getting into a quote unquote this bed, right? That it's like you see it, and if I go this way, this is what the future is going to be like without having to spend 10, 15 minutes visualizing, meditating, and seeing it, right? Our intuition does that for us like this. And so often we are disconnected, especially women, especially good girls, are disconnected from their intuition because those are the ones you can't control. But the ones who are intuitive, of course, also means healed or healing. You can't control them
Mm-mm.
because they know themselves and their power, their innate power, that you can't take that away from them anymore.
Right.
Um, so with all of us, we, how do I put it? It's like we all each have an opportunity to change or not to change, right? To be or not to be. And it usually is because we have experienced enough pain and suffering with one, two, or even more parts of our life. So for you, what was your enough is enough moment where you knew that you either needed to change, it was time to change, or that you would stay stuck and this will be it. This will be the future.
I don't think there was an this is enough moment. I think that through the so some people when some people would have in this situation would have gone to therapy or right. I feel like the dating was my therapy. So how
Mhm.
I showed up on the first date was not how I showed up on the 10th date, the 20th date, the 30th date. So I
Mhm.
don't think there wasn't enough that this is enough moment. I think it was a what would have been okay on the first date, now on the 20th date is not okay. Now I'm stepping up. So every step, I guess, was not enough, if that
Mhm.
makes sense. So not one, but all.
Yeah, it does make sense because what I mean by enough is enough. It's like when we essentially the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of change because this is when people change. When the pain of change often is greater or feels greater than the pain of staying the same, people won't change. But when that scale shifts, when staying the same is so much more painful and changing is no longer painful, that's when we change, and that's the enough is enough moment. And we're like, okay, I'm going to get it done. Right. That's what I mean by the enough is enough moment. And it doesn't necessarily need to be something big and dramatic. It can be sometimes subtle and sometimes unsubtle or unsettling, where you go from one day to another, and you're learning more about yourself. Yes, other people, but more about yourself and in relation to other people. And you see what you can tolerate and where you're like, no, I've had enough there. I am not putting up with that. Things are going to be different. So the next man will be different, will be quote unquote better and better and better. But it's also because now you have
Mm.
worked on yourself. You are the best version of yourself that you can be in that particular moment, and you attract what you are to you. And on this journey, you're also, your journey of becoming, you're losing things, you're finding things, losing things, and finding things. And what would you say, and of course, ourselves, right? What would you say that you lost on your journey that you didn't actually expect to grieve?
What did I lose on my journey that I didn't expect to grieve? I think that, and I think my voice. Like
Mm,
I feel like I, and that would have started before this whole, but I used to be in my 20s, quite brave and quite outspoken. And I absolutely am just finding my voice again. And
mm,
so even though I was on this journey, because you're again so conditioned to be don't say anything, we're even trying. I just this flash of even the Bambi movie. Like never say anything bad about anything. Like just keep your mouth shut. And so being able to now realize that I lost my voice, and now grieve that, and now the opportunity to start finding my voice again.
Yeah. It reminds me of what my mom used to say. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. And it's actually a really great and powerful quote and a lesson, but it doesn't come with instructions,
No.
right? And that's what you're talking about is like, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. So because of that, now it's like I can't say anything. The voice is lost. You say less and less and less, which means that you're hiding yourself and your thoughts and your opinions and judgments or whatnot, which are also observations. And in many ways, it's also opportunities for other people to grow and become better. So that's what we're also doing in that process when we don't say anything because it's not nice, and we can say anything we want in a nicer way, even though regardless with some things you can say it in a nicer way, it'll still sting. But those are opportunities for growth, not just for ourselves when we break through that discomfort, but for the other person to hear and see something and understand something about themselves that otherwise they might never know about themselves. Most
Mhm.
people, I um I know few people who are self-aware. But even the self-aware people, there's still some things that they're not aware about themselves. I like to think and believe that I am self-aware, but I also know that I am self-aware, and I know that there's other areas of me that I'm not aware about. So I'm open to having people coming and telling me these things. Obviously not in a way that they're trying to destroy me, but in a
Yeah.
way that they're trying to build me up. There is a difference there. And I want to know so I can improve and find myself in that. Yes, of course, I'm going to be maybe upset or uncomfortable or hurt for a little bit, but because it's news to me, it's new information to me, right? And
Mhm.
this is what you were finding your voice, finding yourself through this journey, through these 50 dates. And of course, there wasn't just 50 dates, there was all the things in between. And this is now where I'm like, not that my brain went that way. We're talking about the 50 dates, but what about all the things in between? What did you do with yourself and your time between all these dates?
Great question. And it is the time in between, because that's when you have to figure out again who you are,
Yeah.
and how you can be alone. And at this exact same time, a friendship of over 30 years started to erode. And
Mm,
so that's a whole other a journey. But it's like, as I was figuring out who I am, I think I was also making other people uncomfortable, that I wasn't willing to stay in some sort of victim mentality. And
mm,
so that was not comfortable for people. And so what was I doing? And then I was doing some fun things. Like I was taking burlesque lessons, and I was um, just going outdoors more, and so trying to fill my time, but with things that brought me joy.
mhm.
So yeah, I was doing lots of things.
Awesome. That way you get to find yourself through all the other things and not just
Hmm.
the men and the dates.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can only imagine how challenging losing a 30-year friendship, which is really a relationship,
Hmm.
must have been for you, especially what it sounds like during all of this time. Um,
Hmm.
so how would you say that affected you or added to your journey?
Truthfully, when I look back, that relationship probably devastated me more than even the relationship,
Mm,
because that person was supposed to be my ride or die. And when I felt like, and again, everything, there's perception's reality.
yeah,
But in my mind, this was the one time when I really needed a friend and wasn't there. And then the other lesson is really you are supposed to be your own best friend,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Know that now, but at the time it was painful.
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And was she always there to help you through all the other challenging times in your life, or not entirely?
My life wasn't that challenging until that moment. The challenges were on
Um,
her end. And again, perception reality. But
yeah,
in my mind, I felt like of the million times I helped, I really needed her and not no capacity.
yeah. Well, that's the conversation we could get into, but I'll let it
Yeah,
leave it
another
there
time.
because
Another time.
I've been there, done that. Not 30-year friendship, but when you have a certain perception and then you're faced with reality where we're really also seeing ourselves and how much of good girls we are, where we normalize things. And like Oprah Winfrey would say, when people show you who they are, believe them. But most good girls, we do not believe them. We will try to convince ourselves and rationalize to because we are programmed to see the good in
Hmm.
others. And it's hard to see otherwise sometimes until you're faced with it. And like you said, then you learn that you got to be your best friend first
Hmm.
before anybody else comes in. And then once you are your own best friend, you're gonna set a shit ton of boundaries with yourself, which means that those same boundaries will apply to everyone else as well. So now, what does getting your shit together actually look like for you in the real life?
You touched on it earlier. I honestly think that it's a process. You
Mhm.
get your shit together, and then something else happens, and you get your shit together again, and then something else happens. You continue to show up, you develop resilience and trust in yourself, and um, and you said it when you said about when you said Tony Robbins. Things happen to everybody. It's just hopefully as you build resilience and strength and trust with yourself, that it doesn't take you as long to
Yeah,
pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and get going again.
yeah, yeah. It's true. It's one thing after the other. We can look at it as things are happening to us,
Hmm.
and that's what breaks us. This is what creates suffering. Language is a huge part of how we live and exist. And most people either are not aware of it or will deny it and fight it so they can keep living in their bubble. And then there's those who are working on it, um, or not. But we can see things as they're happening to us, but they're really happening for us because through that process, you find yourself in ways that you wouldn't have otherwise. So, how would you say you found yourself on this journey that just to you was like jaw dropping and you felt so much relief that maybe you even cried a little or a lot?
Tried a little or a lot. Um, so I was lucky enough to be in Maui on around the anniversary of the first date. And I was there with a friend, and she said, "Well, now what? Like you've completed 50 dates and now what?" And I'm like, "Honestly," I said, "it doesn't matter. I'll go on 50 more." And so and I was crying. I remember standing looking out at the ocean, like, how beautiful is this picture? I'm standing out looking at the ocean, and I said to the universe, I think I've done the work. Like, I think I'm ready to meet somebody that matches me and my energy and the work that I've done. And I remember being emotional about it, and writing the list of what I was thinking that was important to me. And so all that took place on the anniversary of the first date.
Wow. And how would you
Hmm.
say that changed your life since then?
Well, the next date was the man I married.
So tell me more about that. We all love happy endings.
Um, yeah, and I think so. I think that I truly, at that point, I think it was actually date 53 or something. But I came back from Maui, and I had a date set up with this guy, and I got really sick, and so I had to cancel. And if anyone is familiar with the dating process, you cancel, you're probably not seeing that person again because they have moved on. They have swiped left or right or whatever they're doing. But instead, we did reschedule the date, and we yeah, it was pretty much, we I think our souls recognized each other, and um, knew he was the one.
Awesome. And how long has it been since you met the one?
We have been together for 8 years.
Nice. That's a good
Mm-hmm.
number.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And what does he say about this journey of yours that you were on prior to him?
He's an engineer, so he's very analytical.
Yeah.
Um,
The best ones, right?
yeah, I let him read my story before I did anything with it, so he had a glimpse of who and he's truly, like, he's my biggest champion. He's also, as an engineer, my biggest lesson. Learn a lot of lessons from him.
Yeah, teacher.
Um, Challenges me in a lot of ways, but it's all good.
Yeah. That's how we grow. And the best partners are going to be the ones that will challenge us. And unfortunately, most people are not comfortable being challenged. And this
No.
is where there is friction in their relationships instead of allowing that friction turn into the fire that it was always meant to be and getting past that friction, which is really, it's like, okay, tell me how I can improve nicely and gently, and I will improve to the best of my ability.
Yeah.
And it has to be exchanged as well, which means that he would be doing the same thing, right? Is that
Mhm.
something that you would say that you have in your relationship with your man? Because you said he challenges you. Do you challenge him?
Oh, yes, he absolutely calls me out on my bullshit. I call him out on his. Um, I think that we both hear the other person and look for opportunities to grow from that. Um, yeah. But his journey is not the same as my journey. So,
No, no. Because how many years did you have your own journey for? And then same thing with him. And even
mhm.
like I met my husband when we were both 19 years old and we got married when we were 21. And we literally grew up together. But for the first 19 years, we were still we didn't know each other, right? We had our own separate lives and we were conditioned and programmed in different ways. I'm originally from Russia, so when I was 13 and a bit, my mom, me, and my sister, the three of us girls, we flew from Russia to Mexico City, ran across that border, drove in a bus across the states and then went across the other border into Canada where our dad met us because he went there a few months earlier to settle to find a place for us and the things that he went through was quite a bit. And so I come with I come bearing gifts, as I like to call it, really, which is my own baggage, my own things, my own insecurities, and we all bring those parts of ourselves in the relationship. And then there's the way that my husband was raised and brought up here in Canada. His dad was born in Canada, but he's Polish. His mom was Portuguese, and she lost her mother at a very young age, so she had to be a mother to her siblings. And that affects a person, and then the program and conditioning that they had gets passed on. So now that you find each other, how many years later, how open would you say you guys are to communicating in ways to help each other grow as individuals and yet as a couple?
Well, that depends on the day of the week.
Tell me
Because
more.
you said it, when you had 19 years of figuring out who you were before you met your
Yeah.
husband. I had nearly 5 decades. No, yeah, like I was 50. And
Yeah.
so the upbringing, there's also two sets of children. Like it's the whole thing. So I think that we are both open and always trying to be respectful during communications. But sometimes our life is not our own. Kids can make things messy and other outside elements. And so, yeah, it's not all figured out. It's not all figured
Yeah.
out.
Of course not. We're
Yeah.
figuring it out. All of us are figuring out because we figure it's like you know that you probably heard this when you were raising your kids. Don't get comfortable, because the moment you get comfortable with your child, whether sleeping or napping or whatever it is, they're gonna change on you.
Yeah.
Life is just like that. No matter how old we are, just the moment that we get comfortable and complacent with how
Yep.
things are, there's gonna be new challenges and new opportunities, because that means, okay, now you've had your rest. Now it's next growth time. So, what would you say the biggest growth time that you feel you've experienced throughout your life, right now, that comes up that you would love to share with us?
Hmm. So many things, but I think that the biggest growth right now is like, because I am now in my 50s, almost 60. Um, the biggest growth lesson is trying to remember to not put my expectations on my children. And we
Mhm,
talked about this before, and trying to know that, and it's like stepping aside when you still feel like you want to be like the main character, but you also there's sort of a spot where you just want to be the wise woman and just look at and let them live their lives and just be here
mhm,
as a guide and a mentor. So that is a life lesson, because
mhm.
growing old gracefully is a challenge in itself. And so knowing that you've imparted wisdom onto your kids and just sort of letting them make their mistakes and not protect them all the time. So I think that's a lesson right now that's a big lesson right now for me.
Yeah. And how many kids do you have?
I have two daughters and my husband has two daughters.
Oh, girls. Oh, how
Mhm.
fun.
Super.
We have a daughter and a son. They're still young, 16 and 13. He just turned 13. So the teens are really fun for sure. But each day gets better and better. As you said, like, no matter how old the kids are, really, we gotta let them do things on their own. And there was a quote that I shared with my husband a while back, and it's, we gotta let our kids do dangerous things safely.
Yeah.
Like cutting a watermelon is a dangerous thing to do. And when our son was like 4 years old, he wanted to do it. And it's like, okay, you can do this dangerous thing safely, which means I'm there, I'm helping, I'm guiding, right? Because if he wants to do it, he's the type of a child, like I was, still am sometimes. If I have an idea and if I want to do something, I'm gonna do it. If
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to help me, that's fine. I'm still going to do it. And my son is that same way. If he has an idea to cut a watermelon with the biggest knife that we have, I better teach him how to do it so then he can do it all on his own and figure it out. And then later on, right now, not right now, this was when he was little. Then it was those problems. Then it was him climbing the trees in our backyard and then going to our neighbor's backyard and climbing their tree. And it's like a 60 or 70 feet tall pine tree. So those problems, later on, there'll be bigger problems.
Yeah.
And like you said, we can't be there for them. We
No.
can't hold their hand. At one point, they didn't even want to hold our hand because, Mommy, it's embarrassing. My friends are right there. I don't want to hold hands.
Mm-hmm.
And they gotta live without us at one point. And that is the reality,
Yeah.
right? So what would you say to that woman who is listening right now, who is stuck in that dreaming, that doubting, that overthinking phase? What would you say to her that might finally get her to move and do something with it that perhaps she's not ready to hear yet?
Um, what I would say is get out of your own way, and get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah. And how would you say would was it for you when you started? Like, what were the first steps to getting comfortable in the uncomfortable?
Well, I'm the person that makes the plan. So I think, it just can be small, but write down one thing that you want to accomplish and then make it happen. Like you don't have to say, well, I want to get married, but if you know that you want to get married, go on one date and then make a plan to go on another date. If you need a new job, send out one resume, or you know what I mean, like just small steps. There's a Japanese method called kaizen where it's like you don't need to run the marathon. You just got to stand up in your house and walk for 2 minutes in place, and then you just build up and build up and build up because the body is programmed. I believe I'm not a scientist or a doctor, but the body is programmed to keep you safe.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so if you can walk for 1 minute and you feel safe, then you'll walk for 2 minutes. And I think that's how you live life is you do something until it feels safe and then you
Mhm.
push yourself a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit past that safe point and
Yeah.
get safer and safer. I
Yeah.
think this is how we humans came out of the caves as well, right? And evolved into now living in our own little structures we're called homes or apartments or whatever we want to call it. But
Yeah.
all we all lived essentially in caves. My husband started watching, me and him started watching this I forgot the name of it, but there's guys on YouTube that go and explore places that people don't go to. And as I'm looking at the structure, it's like stone wall, like massive stones, like mountains. And in there, what I call them little apartments that are being carved in. People lived on those stone walls and walking on edges. Like to me, I'm like, oh my God, how could you raise a baby in a place like that? They'll just tumble and fall. But they know and they learn really quickly. They adjust. We all do. And we started adjusting as young girls to everybody else's needs and
Hmm.
mold ourselves to their needs. And until we're exhausted to a point we have lost ourselves and our identity. And then we have to go and rediscover it.
Yeah.
And I believe that the best thing that can happen for us is that losing ourselves. Because when we lose ourselves and when we finally find ourselves, we can never be lost again.
True.
Like we
Yeah.
really, really find ourselves. So the last question I want to ask you is what part of yourself are you finally allowing to exist without trying to fix, hide, or prove it to anyone anymore?
It's the voice piece.
Mm,
Um, I'm much better at speaking my truth, no matter what the consequence.
Yeah. And how would you say that has really changed your life? Give us like the before and the after snapshot views.
It's definitely more freeing,
Yeah.
and I'm proud of myself. So and again, speak my truth with kindness and compassion, but um, I think that, oh, now I've lost track of your question, but I think that it just feels so much more freeing and authentic
Yeah.
to know that I want to say, I want to be who I say I am.
Mhm.
And the only way to do that is to be able to say what I think and feel.
Yeah, exactly. To speak your truth, because otherwise somebody else will speak your truth and it won't be your truth, it'll be their truth.
Exactly.
And having somebody else speak for us, no
Not good.
bueno. It doesn't feel good. So thank you, Cindy, so much for sharing your journey so
Thanks for
openly today. Go give her some love, everybody. Follow her, check her out. And there's going to be links around this podcast as well, depending on which platform. It's either below or on the side, or depending on the tool you use, whether it's a laptop or a computer or a phone. So check her out. And if this episode hit home, please share it with another woman who needs to hear it, but might not be ready to hear it just yet. And I like to emphasize that point because so many of us, we think we're ready for something, but we're not. And this is where growth takes place when we hear something or we see something or we do something that we're not really ready to do and experience just yet. But
Mm-hmm.
if we weren't, it wouldn't be right here. It wouldn't be presenting itself at our front doorstep. So now also make sure you subscribe so you never miss another episode. These episodes, they come out live on every Saturday. And I have a couple of other episodes as well that'll be coming out soon on the podcast. And this one particular, Your Journey Becoming, I usually do live, just like today. It's a live episode, and you can tune in and watch it on my personal Facebook page first before it goes on the Spotify platform and YouTube as well. So until next time, keep showing up, keep becoming. You are not behind, you are not too old or too young. You didn't miss the train, and you're not too late. You're right on time. So thank you, everybody. Thank you again, Cindy. And until next time, bye, everybody.